Hello cave dwellers and welcome to my cave. If we haven't met before, my name's Reese, and for today's RMC livestream brought to you by the letter M, I thought I'd show you my Mr. Driller collection. Mr. Driller was an arcade game released by Japanese company Namco in 1999. Now you might wonder if 99 qualifies as retro, but the game concept has actually been around a lot longer than that. In fact, Mr. Driller started life as Dig Dug 3. Indeed, the main protagonist of the game, Susumu Hori, is the son of Taizo Hori, the main character from Dig Dug. If you're not familiar with it, the gameplay of the Mr. Driller games involves digging out coloured blocks which are somehow taking over the city while being sure to keep topped up on oxygen. Depending on which version of the game you play, there are various characters with different abilities. There are also a couple of sequels, Mr. Driller 2 and Mr. Driller G, which introduce some new gameplay elements like multiplayer. So here I have the official strategy guides for the three main arcade games. These were, of course, released in Japan, in Japanese. With my rudimentary Japanese language skills, I can't actually really read them. But they do have some nice pictures, and they also come with some nice stickers as well, which is always a good bonus. I also have this promotional tote bag. It says not for sale on the back. I'm not really sure what it was launched to promote, but it's quite nice. I have these badges from the launch of Drill Land on the GameCube. I don't actually own that game because it was quite hard to come by, but I am on the lookout for a copy. Incidentally, Drill Land is coming out on Steam on PC on June the 25th this year, so very much looking forward to that. I have this Mr. Driller phone charm. I'm not sure if that was from a vending machine or what, but that's a pretty cool little thing. And I have this phone card. If you remember payphones that take cards as payment, this is a brand new sealed Japanese phone card with Mr. Driller on it. On to the actual games, and I think we'll start at the beginning with the original arcade game. And it just so happens that I have the arcade PCB right here. The immediately obvious thing about this PCB is probably these Sony chips. And the reason for those is because this Namco System 12 arcade hardware is actually based on the original Sony PlayStation. The CPU is overclocked, so it's 50% faster than the PlayStation, and it has a slightly better sound chip, but other than that, it's identical. And this board conforms to the jammer standard, which means I can use my supergun to get it hooked up to my TV. And to make life even easier, the board actually supports the JVS, which is Jammer Video standard, so it has a VGA video connector and RCA audio connectors. The supergun uses a Neo Geo AES joystick and hooks up to a standard 4-pin Molex power connector, so I'm using a Pico PSU here with an ATX breakout board. I also have the Game Boy Color version here from the year 2000. This is actually one of my favourite versions of the game. It's cut down, but the core gameplay is there, and it has really cute low-res pixel art and a really nice Game Boy chiptune soundtrack. Well worth seeking out. After that came the Bandai WonderSwan version. I don't actually own a WonderSwan yet, but I suppose the box looks pretty. This one was a lot of fun once I finally got it working. It's the PC version from 2000, but due to the way languages work in Windows 9X, the installer is only compatible with the Japanese version of Windows. I didn't really want to have to reinstall Windows on my lovely NetVista just to play this game, so I found a way of installing it on my Windows 10 PC by installing the Japanese language pack and then manually copying the files over. This version is really nice actually, with high resolution graphics and direct 3D support. Back onto the handhelds, here's Mr. Driller A for the Game Boy Advance from 2002. This version was unique to the GBA and has a whole cool animated story at the beginning. It's entirely in Japanese of course. The second and final Mr. Driller game for the GBA was Mr. Driller 2 in 2004 and was essentially the same as the other Mr. Driller 2 ports from that time. Mr. Driller Drill Spirits came along on the DS in 2004. Like a lot of DS games, it didn't really make amazing use of the second screen or the touch functionality, but it's a really good port, so I can't complain. Finally, I have the PlayStation releases of the original Mr. Driller and Mr. Driller G. I don't have a Japanese or chipped PlayStation, so I can't show you these running, but as the hardware was essentially identical to the arcade release, so was the gameplay and the graphics. They were released a year after their arcade counterparts. As with the majority of my game collection, I keep all of this in one of my cubby holes. Now these cubby holes measure 35 by 33 by 33 centimetres, which gives us approximately 38,115 cubic centimetres. As you've probably spotted, I have a few Mr. Driller plushies knocking around as well. I used him as my avatar for the longest time, so I always have them hanging around in the background of my videos as a bit of an homage to the earlier days of my social media empire. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed my nomination for M, and I'm looking forward to what everyone else has to show us. Back to Neil in the studio.